My mother was a prostitute. My father was a pimp. I bet I got your attention now. My name is Nickolas DeJarnette. Now I'm here today to speak to you specifically about the absolute severity of environment. Now I'm going to say that again. The absolute severity of environment. Now, before I start talking to you about environment and how it played a major role in my life, both positive and negative, I'm going to share with you some personal details about my childhood and my upbringing. Now, what I mean by environment is not necessarily referring to the state that I'm from, or the city that I'm from, or the neighborhood that I'm from, the hood that I'm from, but I'm talking about my immediate environment, my household, and my family. For example, I have a brother who's 10 years older than me. He got 2 murders on his record. My father's sister shot and murdered a man out in Worcester, Massachusetts. My father, when he was getting out of prison, they put him on parole. The only problem with that is he was a pimp and had the gift to gab. He eventually started sleeping with his parole officer, pimping his parole officer, and then he turned around and shot a man with his parole officer's gun. And her father was a judge. And this was all over the news. And as a child, I remember hearing about all of these things. Again, my immediate environment. Here's a picture of my father and my mother. My father's African American from down south, Montgomery, Alabama. My mother, she's Irish, from up here, Worcester, Massachusetts. Together, they would go on and live a very reckless and ruthless life together. Both of them alcoholics and drug addicts. Both of them career criminals. Both of them felons. Again, my immediate environment. 1988, I committed my first crime. I was 8 years old, breaking and entering. As a child, I spent my entire childhood going in and out of the system. In and out of DSS foster homes. They now call it DCF. In and out of DYS locker facilities. I started going in and out of jail as soon as I was old enough to go at the age of 17. And by the age of 22, I had gotten myself a 15 to 17 year prison sentence. And it was a minimum mandatory prison sentence. What does that mean? It means that the 15 years is a minimum mandatory. It means I had to do 15 years day for day. That was my sentence. That means I couldn't get good time. I couldn't get probation, parole. I had to do 15 years day for day. That was my sentence. So at the age of 22, most people who are incarcerated, they only have a few years in the game. They only have a few years in the system. If you're 22 years old, you could have started maybe when you were 15, 16, 17 years old, right? You may have 3 years in the game. 3 years going in and out of the system. Maybe 5 years, tops. By the time I was 22 years old, I already had 15 years in the game. 15 years going in and out of the system. By the time I was 22 years old, I said enough is enough. And I was smart enough to be able to see that the environment that I was surrounded by, not just my city, not just my state, not just my neighborhood, but my immediate environment, my family members, my household, played a major role in the direction that my life was going. And I said enough is enough. I could see that. And so what did I do? I made myself a promise. I call it the prison promise. I promised myself when I get out, I'm going to surround myself with people who are better than me. I don't care what it is I'm trying to do in life. Anything that I'm trying to do, anything that I'm trying to achieve, I'm going to surround myself with people who are better than me. If I'm going to gym, working out, my workout partner is going to be somebody who's more physically fit than me. If I'm in school studying, my study partner is going to be somebody who's more educated than myself. If I'm going to church, my prayer partner is going to be somebody who's more spiritual than myself. Yeah. If I'm in the business realm and have trying to be an entrepreneur like I currently am today, my mentor, my business mentor is going to be somebody who has a business way longer than I have. They're way more successful than I am. That's going to be, I'm going to surround myself with people who are better than me. That's what I promised myself. Because I realized how environment played a major role that was taking my life down the wrong road. And I said, if I change my environment, I can change the direction of my life. The Chinese baby concept. I made up this concept because I personally believe that if you take a Chinese baby and you put him in an African American home, and you raise that child, that baby, for the first 20 years of his life, that child's going to walk black, talk black, eat black, everything about that child, his mannerisms, everything about him is going to reflect the African American culture. The Chinese baby concept. So why do I bring that up? The Chinese baby concept? Because that child accidentally has the mannerisms of the African American culture and family. So I believe if you took a fool and you surrounded him by wise individuals, that fool will accidentally become wise. Just imagine if he applied himself. Just imagine. Just imagine if he took notes. Just imagine if he was trying to become better. I believe that fool would accidentally become wiser just being in the environment of wise individuals. I've seen it myself. The Chinese baby concept. Your level of exposure will determine your level of success. Facts. Your level of exposure will determine your level of success. People don't do what I've done. People don't do almost a decade straight in prison and come out and graduate from one of the top 20 colleges in the nation and start and own multiple businesses that are now successful. They don't do what I've done. They don't do it. And how did I do it? I changed my environment. I changed my environment. If you create your own environment, you can create the future that you want to have. I changed my environment, man. I cut off all those people, including family. And I handpicked the people who I wanted in my life. The people who wanted to see me excel and succeed in life. I created my own circle of friends. Only people who are good husbands, good fathers. They got jobs. They own businesses. They're in school. I gravitated towards men who I respected, and I relentlessly sought them out. Relentlessly sought them out. I took my own life and my own future into my own hands. Men who strive towards being the best versions of themselves that they could possibly be. Men who strive towards being the best husbands that they could possibly be. Men who strive towards being the best fathers that they could possibly be. Men who strive towards being the best leaders and examples that they could possibly be. I got in the room with them. I made sure I had close proximity with them. I made it a part of my everyday life. Listening to positive people. On the headphones, in my truck driving, watching YouTube clips of individuals who are doing great things, whether it was education, whether it was owning businesses, whether it was flipping real estate, whatever it was, individuals who were exceeding in life. You got two roses here. It looks like they're both in glasses of water. But if you filled one up with water, and if you filled one up with gasoline, what do you think would happen? Environment will either give you life or expedite death. The rose that has water, the water will help it live longer and grow. The rose that's dunked in gasoline will expedite death. The absolute severity of environment. My name is Nickolas DeJarnette, and I thank you for your time.